The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, are we on? You want me to start again?
Michelle, you seem to be self-muted.
Hi, I didn't hear my name called. Good evening, President Nava, members of the board. Sorry, Michelle, your voice was the first one I heard. Good evening, board members and public and teachers. I'm speaking to the items
Michelle,
that you
good
have.
morning.
Yes,
Michelle,
Michelle.
one moment. I'm sorry. I think we're going to have to restart. We had technical difficulties.
You bet.
All right, let's go ahead again. This, public hearing, I declare this public hearing open. And we'll go from the start, pledge and everything. Okay. The roll call means that two people are on remote, Mr. Neely and Mr. Knaxat, and five are present. So that makes the roll call, all are here, all are present. Would you please stand for the pledge? A public hearing, declared public hearing open. Any comments from board members? Mr. Porter?
No, Mr. Nava.
Mrs. McCorley?
No, President Nava.
Okay, Mr. Neely?
No.
Neely?
No comments.
Mr. Freitas?
No comments,
Mr.
Mr. President.
None yet. Okay, we have public comments. One public comment. Michelle Oregon, are you on, please?
Thank you, President Nava, members of the board, teachers. I see this item before us regarding the sufficiency of instructional materials in all of our core areas. I bring the concern to you from both public, parents, and teachers. The concern is that not all students receive textbooks in their hands at their house. There have been complaints that teachers wanted to send textbooks home and they were told no, they could only use the digital version. We believe that it is important to not only have textbooks and workbooks sent home and available for both the wish of the parents and the wish of the teachers. What happens if they get lost was the answer. Well, we sent Chromebooks home to all students. They kept them over summer. Most of them, as far as I know, returned and had them. So if technology goes down, or if a teacher so desires to use the pages in the book to teach for the lesson, we should give them that option. It looks from the list that is the second attachment here that we have all of the textbooks. We would just ask that we make sure that we allow students and teachers to use those tools at their disposal, excuse me. What a student, if they are through no fault of their own locked out of the internet from the teacher, they would have those hardbound books or softbound books to use, read, and consume. That's why they were purchased. We believe it is vitally important that we allow the teacher to use it at their discretion, and those teachers that asked to send them out, some of them were told no. So an entire school sites did not send out. Some at the high school level. It depended on whether or not the digital version was online, and they rolled it out based on the teacher's desire to send it out. I would also say that it is just as important, as we heard from parents, that those books be in their hand in case technology fails in some sense. That's all we have on this. It looks like we have all the materials. We would just plead that we get them in students' hands at their homes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. Ms. Armstrong, anybody else?
No further comments.
No further comment. I declare this public hearing closed. This is an action item brought back, and the action item is resolution 2020-69, sufficiency of instructional materials. Salad.
Thank you, President Nava, Dr. Washer, members of the board. This is the annual Williams review, and Williams began in 2004 and has continued in seeking to ensure that students in low-income schools have access to sufficient textbook materials. And the typical process that occurs each year is the San Joaquin County Office of Education visits the sites. There are 20 sites, or 20 elementary, 2 middle school, and 1 high school site in Lodi Unified that receive visits. This is due to the fact that in 2013, they were identified as deciles 1, 2, or 3 back when the API was used for ranking and scoring of schools. At that time, that ended, and the 2013 class became a permanent cohort. So those 23 schools continue. And each pupil, it has been determined that each site has sufficient textbooks and instructional materials for use at home and in school for distance or in-person learning in the areas of English language arts, English language development, math, science, history, social science, and world languages. The curriculum is aligned to state standards and consistent with current frameworks and adoption cycles. Due to the COVID situation, this has resulted in a suspension of the site visits, which typically would have occurred the first month of school, in favor of site administrator verified sufficiency reports. This actually was codified last week when the governor signed SB 820, which allowed for the county offices to suspend visits. The Lodi Unified Instructional Materials Center has been providing materials throughout the summer to school sites and distributed them to schools as determined by need. As recently as last week, we queried principals of any outstanding need and heard that there were none. All shortages had already been filled by the Instructional Materials Center. So it is a recommendation that you adopt or approve this sufficiency notification for this school year. Thank you, President Nava.
Thank you, Dr. Selly. We have a comment from Mr. Hemmerly.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. My question was answered. So I'm done.
President Nava.
Ms. McFarland.
I agree.
Mr. Neely.
No comments.
Turn it on. Mr. Knapsack.
Mr. President, I move to approve resolution 2020-69.
Let's finish it, Gary. Let me ask Mr. Porter if he has any comments, and then we'll proceed. Mr. Porter?
No comments, Mr. Nava.
No comment. I heard you wanted to make a motion.
I so move. I move to approve resolution 2020-69.
Moved by Mr. Knapsack to approve resolution 2020-69. 2020-69, second by Ms. McFarland. Both, I'm sorry, I did not get any public comments. So I'm gonna back up. We all have the motion in. Michelle, Michelle, do you have any comments?
Yes.
Any comments from the public? Put her on, Michelle.
Thank you, board. And thank you, Mr. Solly, Dr. Solly, for the information about the principals being queried about sufficiency. Again, I know that there was some questions also about digital accessibility. Did we make sure that all students now have a hotspot that needed it, that could access the digital textbooks? Was that part of the survey? If I could ask Mr. Nava through to Dr. Solly.
Dr. Solly, answer that, please.
President Nava, the hotspots were not part of the sufficiency due to the fact that this, like I say, mentioned and initiated in 2004. However, the ability to work from home is a part of the sufficiency in the digital mode, but specifically hotspots were not inspected.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. Any other questions?
Yeah, one more question. So did we look at, were there any students or families that still are not able to log on and have access? Are we still getting?
Can you answer that, sir?
It's my understanding through conversation with the IT director that we have met all of the needs of requested hotspots that have been placed. So to my knowledge, the answer is they've been fulfilled.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll proceed with our motion. We'll take the board vote. Mr. Heberly. Aye. Mr. Freitas. Mr. Neely.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Mr. Nutt, aye, and first and second, both of them are aye, so motion carries 7-0. We need a motion to adjourn. Okay, it's been motioned by Mr. Beverly, second by Mr. Farley to adjourn this meeting. Mr. Porter. Aye. Mr. Nava, aye. Mr. Neely.
Aye.
Mr. Knapsack.
Aye.
Mr. Freitas. Aye. Okay, motion carries 7-0. Meeting is adjourned.
Now.
You can log out.